The Grand Duke and Princess of Sussex are ongoing there at first across the sea round, in engagements in New Zealand, the definitive nation there newcomer. The King pair's 16-date travel begun in Australia, up driving on to Fiji and Tonga. They refundable to Australia up flyer to Wellington. There is a sea at their travel so distant. Meghan and Harry extended in their attention on psychological public health on Monday, in a trip to a Wellington coffee house. Talk at the coastal Marinui Coffee House, wherever they met psychological public health workers, the princess told human beings' feeling of personality worth could be very distorted by public print. Talk to personnel who job on a program for millennials, she told, thou see photos on public print and you don't aware if she's unborn in it or perhaps he's a filtering yours judgment of yours feeling of personality worth becomes very distorted while he's all relying on likes. They met school children external the coffee house, in Meghan after fleeing behind within to ask how the remnant cakes be undertaken out for the family. One of them, 5-year-old Joe youthful, found events a bit insurmountable and was reassured by the Grand Duke and Princess, in Harry tickle his belly. Following up was a meet-in musicians and artists, consisting a man dressed as an orc man. They were at Courtenay Artistic, that rest programs for youthful human beings looking to get in movie, and delivered for pictures in actors dressed as monsters. Over in the date, they had been to New Zealand's least domestic garden, wherever they went on a path go and consumable period on the bathing beach, in spite the wet weather, in Harry secure his woman in an parasol. In a speaking, he told, myself and my woman and our slight crash were thankful for the way conservationists see following the nice location. Meghan and Harry had landing in New Zealand on Saturday, flyer in of Sydney in members of the New Zealand Invictus Games team. They were taking into account a conventional Maori greet, consisting of productivity of the haka. Their at first betrothal was at the Pukeahu Domestic War Monument Garden, wherever they laid down a garland. Meghan after gave a speaking to mark the 125th anniversary date of female creature taking into account the voice in New Zealand. She told, in the speech of your suffragette Kate Shepherd, all how separates, if racing, grade, religion, or sex, is inhumane, and must be surmounted. Harry and Meghan passing to Australia for the other period for the end of the Invictus Games. On Friday, they were amongst the crowds observer the invalid carriage basketball game finals on the recent day of the contest. At the close right on Saturday, the Grand Duke of Sussex told the competitive environment amateur performance had been derogatory. They are men and female who include confronted a problem and surmount he told. They are common human beings making emergency things. His woman thanked the Invictus organization for hospitable her in the household, proverb she had observed wonderful supporting networks among the 500 competitive environment. On Friday, Harry and Meghan attended Tupou School for the opening of the Tsarina's state awning, and lead how urged to save native forest for next generations. They at first arriving in Tonga on Thursday high school family were taking into account the day off to greet the pair and on the lining the path to Nuku'alofa, wherever the royalty had a individual auditorium in Tsar Tupou 6 and Tsarina Nanasipuyu. The pair's recent betrothal in Fiji took location at Nadi Airport up there flying to Tonga. Harry opened a monument to UK Fijian SAS man Sergeant Talayash Labalaba, who dead following solitary-handedly keeping off 250 insurgents foreign transactions in Oman in 1972. The Princess of Sussex had to cut brief a trip to a marketplace in the Equity, Suva, on Environment Night since of safety concerns inflicted by big crowds. Meghan leftward on 6 protocol in a planned 15 minutes trip to the website. Meghan as well aimed students at the College of the Southward silent, her at first speaking of the King round. She told how for female and girls in evolving countries formation was core to economical and public growth and could assist them build unbelievable futures. On Tuesday, Harry and Meghan visited a right wherever the Duke tested cava, a conventional non-alcoholic sip. Crowds cheered as he sipped the sip, that is utilized to consider concern and distress in several countries. The pair were later met by enormous crowds of human beings at the Great Silent Inn in Suva, wherever they wavy of a terrace. The Grand Duke and Princess met CEO Georgi Conrote and at first Dame Saratfaga Conrote, who introduced Meghan in a gem pearl necklace. The king pair's travel began on October 16 in Sydney, as news story of Meghan's pregnant done headlines through the ball. Unnecessary to tell, everyone was looking out for a at first glimmer of the king-infant crash. Australia's Governor-General Sir Peter Cosgrove and his woman Lynn introduced Harry and Meghan in a toy wallaby and a slight couple of Ugg shoes for their infant, that is due in the springtime. The pair went barefooted on Bondi Bathing Beach, as they met Surf Society Team One Wave, that encourages the debate of psychological public health issues. The Grand Duke and Princess as well went out on the water supply in Sydney, wherever Harry took up the problem of scale the Sydney Harbour Axle. Along in 3 Invictus Games athletes and Australia Main Secretary Scott Morrison, the Grand Duke's crew took 13 protocol to full their climb of the Axle. The pair as well visited the discovery right of the Invictus Games. Yet, following it overran by almost several hours, it was solved how Meghan would get several period out of her plan and expend the next night vacationer. Through the round the Duke's bearded emerging to paint focus of fans of all ages, of 98-year-old Daphne Dunn at the Sydney Opera Building, for 5-year-old Pommel at Dubbo Aeroport. Why Harry is a character for Rangas yet, at Taronga Zoo in Sydney, Reuben the koala bear seemed partly less than amazed. Photographic object to copyright law.